welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Video Mail for the week of October 14th, 2013. Welcome to the site to you new members, and welcome back to the old. The Ask Video Mail is your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered in a video just like this one, but I need your question if I'm going to answer it, so please send your questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions and I answer the ones that I think will help the most people. There is no such thing as a stupid question, and it is the best way to get the most out of this site. Welcome aboard. I think there's a few people who have stayed on past the first Anim Gym. I'm glad to have you. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot. I'm having a lot of fun making this site, even after 3 years. Actually, it was launched about, not including the couple of conferences I did that I recorded, it was launched almost exactly 1 year ago, or 3 years ago today. So this is a very exciting time. It's always very exciting around here. You're going to get used to me saying that as well, but I'm just a very excitable guy, so you just have to bear with me because things are always popping. Things are popping for me. So this is a great question. I'm really excited about this week's question because it ties into a lot of what I've been kind of discovering with the major workflow tweak that I've been using lately, animating with tempo. If you haven't seen the Animating with Tempo lecture, go back and watch it because it's a very, for me, it was kind of like a new way, a new revolution in terms of thinking about how to block my animation, and it's become a permanent part of my workflow. And at the point in my career that I am, it's very rare to get kind of like a total overall workflow change that actually kind of like makes a huge difference. Normally it's little tweaks, but this has been a major kind of update to my workflow. So why don't we take a look at the question? Let's just get right to it. Well, again, this ties a lot into the workflow lecture, the Animating with Tempo that I did. And reason that the Dopesheet, well, let's just talk about what the Dopesheet does first of all, and I'll show you a little bit more in depth on how and where to use the Dopesheet. Basically, what the Dopesheet does, in the old times, the Dopesheet was basically, it was a sheet of paper, and it had the frame numbers on it, and then you would write down, and there was actually shorthand as well. So like if something was doing like a crazy action or whatever, and it fast into like a certain part, there's like the shorthand, like slashes that you could do that would show somebody what the action should be. Show the in-betweener actually what your action should be. So you would keyframe it, you would draw the keyframes, and then someone could come along and using a Dopesheet, they could completely finish your finish your scene. Jeez. And that's the way it worked basically. Well, fast forward to digital age, and we have all sorts of tools. And the biggest change for the way that we do animation is that the computer has to have information about where the object is at all times. Meaning, when you were drawing, you draw an image, and then an in-betweener could come along and they could draw any image in between your frame 1 and frame 24. Right? It could be off model. It could be almost a completely different character. If it was a character wearing a cape and they swirled up like this, they could make like this, just like this tornado of cape material, and then they could, like finish that little pose and whatever. Well, the fact is that in 3D, we have to stay on model. We have to have something that is existent in 3D at all times. And we can't get around that. So that's why animation paradigms like the graph editor, where you have a function curve where the object, where the motion is and those channels are at all times, become necessary. And that's an okay, it's a fine enough paradigm for animating in 3D, especially because that's the way that animation has to work. But what it gets rid of, what it doesn't allow us to do, is it doesn't give us kind of that flexibility of working with our drawings in a really quick and intuitive, fast way. And so that's what the Dopesheet is. Enter the Dopesheet. What it does is it shows you all of your keys in sort of a grid format. Instead of a graph with a curve, it shows you your keys on a grid. And that grid represents all the channels are arranged in rows, and all the frames are arranged in columns. And you can move your frames around and retime animation. It's the quickest way to retime animation, especially if you block really pose to pose and you build sort of like an image. Okay, so let's jump really quickly over to Maya, and I'll continue talking about the Dopesheet here. Okay, so here is the scene from the lecture that I was working on, and basically, I mean, you're familiar with this by now. Basically, what I wanted to do was I wanted to reblock the end, because I used this during collabs. I used this scene that I animated for KennyRoy.com, where he lands up here and sort of like wiggles and gets up top. I wanted him to hit and then bounce and fall. And so here I have my helper object that is showing, you know, basically what is going to be happening. Okay. So I was able to get a really quick approximation of the motion that I wanted by using this helper object. And animating with tempo means making the timing decisions in the order that the timing decisions are going to be are going to influence and be like apparent in my scene. But what's the best way to move on from here? And so this is where you have to start thinking like, okay, the Dopesheet actually really does give you a little bit more flexibility. When you look at a character, and this character doesn't have very many controls at all. All right, really not very many. Okay, but when you look at a character like this and you realize, okay, let's go to this frame and let's build this pose. Okay, so I'm going to do that actually really quickly. I'm going to build the pose where he's starting to leap off the ground here. Okay, I'm just going to pretend like his feet are still on the ground. Okay, now I'm going to select all these curves. All right, I'm going to hit Set Key, and I'm going to turn on Step Preview. Okay. Now we have another pose. Let's do this one right here. All right. You'll see why I'm doing this in just a second. All right, something like that. Okay, so we have our two poses. Now, the graph editor could be useful, but when you're working, and now I feel like I have to make this point. Okay, when you're working in the big leagues and you're responsible for making like dozens of seconds of animation every single week, and you just can't slow down, every little thing adds up. Okay, so for instance, a good example is they redid the YouTube players, so that in order to go from like regular size to like HD or to like double size your player, it's like 4 clicks now instead of 2. And people were, well, at least on the websites, you know, where nerds complain that I look at, people were like up in arms. They couldn't believe it. 4 clicks now instead of 2. But you know what? That does end up adding up. It really does. So let's just count how long it takes me to retime these 2 poses, okay, with the graph editor, okay? It would be selecting all the controls, going to the graph editor, selecting all of the keys, probably switching to the move tool if I haven't already, and then shift and then middle mouse dragging to move it around, right, to retime it. Okay, so what was that? 1, 2, switch to the graph editor, 3, shift, or switch to move tool, 4, shift, 5, okay, clicks. Now if I want to do it in the dope sheet, it's a lot easier. Why? Because the dope sheet shows you your entire scene. Let me show you how. Okay, I'm going to go to the last frame in the scene. Here we are. Okay, your dope sheet summary up here is basically everything that's selected. Now that's fine and all, but if you have other things in your scene that you're not working on, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't show you all that. Let me switch back. Let me switch back. I apologize. Really quickly again. Here we go. If I want to do this in the graph editor, it's, and let's say it's not selected. 1, open up graph editor. 2, switch to move tool. 3, 4, select just this, and 5. Hold on, shift and move it. See that? There's my read time. Okay? All right. I'm sorry I didn't show that. Still got to be very, 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 maybe just close this so that I'm always aware. There we go. You know what? It was the hypershade on my other monitor was covering it. So that's why I didn't see. Again, I apologize. Okay. So the way the dope sheet works is anything that's selected is automatically loaded, and your dope sheet summary will show you exactly what is, it will show you all the keys for what's selected. You notice that here's a key, right? And it's all of these keys. And even though there's no keys on the belly or the hip or the rear or the love handles, there's still a key up here in the dope sheet summary, because if anytime there's a key on a frame, it shows up here. Okay. Now, as you can see, I didn't select everything and key it yet on this frame, so I will. There we go. Now I'm sure that I'm keying like an image, like a full body pose, right? Okay. So if you deselect, then your dope sheet summary will deselect as well. Okay. So this is like the first decision you have to make if you're going to use a dope sheet. If there's only one character in the scene, then I like to actually view scene summary. Why? Because then I don't have to select anything, and it saves me another click. Okay, so here's my keyframe for. Well, actually, let me show you. Let me go back a couple frames. Okay, here's my keyframe for the body. You see that? It's just 1 tick for the body. Now there's other stuff in the scene. I think some stuff is animated that wasn't selected. If you're very careful and you're keying, you know, you're absolutely sure that you're keying only what you want to, full body, and all the controls, then you can use the scene summary. And look, so look at this. Look how many clicks is this now. I want to retime this. 1, I select it, and middle mouse drag moves it no matter what tool you're using. Like I can be on rotate or scale right here, and it doesn't matter. I just click it. Oops. Actually, you know what? That's funny. Okay. Move or rotate. I misspoke. Okay, move or rotate, it doesn't matter. I've never actually tried to use scale. That's funny. I guess you can scale keys in the dope sheet. I've actually never done this before. That's actually pretty damn cool. Oh, that's really cool. Oh my gosh, and look how cool it is. It snaps it automatically. See, you learn new things every day. That's really awesome. Anyway, but if you have the move or rotate, then you can just do 2 clicks, right? I want to retime this. 1 click, 2. You see that? As opposed to 5. So you leave, the way you'd use it is you'd leave it open, and when you're ready to retime something, you just do those 2 clicks, and you can watch it back. Now remember, my workflow is for you guys to always be experimenting. So when you're working here, you should be watching it and playing it back and saying to yourself, no, that's too quick. Let's just make it just like 1 frame later. Boom. Yeah, let's make actually this 1 frame later too. And now this is starting to distract me, this helper object. This helper object is not helping me anymore. And it doesn't matter what I have selected, I can still retime this. All right, now let's see what this looks like back again. Oh, the helper object has keyframes on the visibility. Let me just delete those and hide it. Okay. So still we're looking at the scene summary here. You see this? So I don't know, that looks a little slow again. Let me move that. Yeah, that looks good. You see that? So I leave it open and I can just click. Now the other thing you can do is, if you don't want to do the scene summary, if you like, let's say for instance you have multiple characters. This is definite if you have multiple characters. Or if you are not positive that everything that you're doing in the scene should be included in the scene summary, then you can only load your selected. So you can select all your controls, okay? You can turn off the scene summary, and then you go to turn off auto load selected objects, okay? And then actually, hold on, deselect everything, then turn off auto load selected objects, then select these, and then go list load selected objects. All right, now when I deselect, look, they're still here, right? It doesn't matter what I select. This is very, 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 very helpful, okay? So if I want to work on just one character, then, and there's a lot of stuff animating going around, look, I can look at just my one character, and now you're sure that your dope sheet summary is just this character, and it's still 2 clicks. Let me spread this all out. Click here. I can do a selection around a couple frames. Or if I want to offset, you know, the rear and the hip and the belly, then I can just, you know, rear, where is the hip? Oh no, that was the hip. Rear is offset and belly is offset, like that. See what I mean? It doesn't make much sense looking at it in step mode, but you get the picture, okay? So when animating with tempo, when making those timing decisions first, especially with a helper object, but even with a character like this, whose controls are very simple and there's not very many of them, it is, for me, it's a no-brainer to start using the dope sheet to do those timing experiments. If part of your workflow is not to like really like kind of drill down that timing over and over and over and over, and do those experiments and just, you know, let the results kind of speak to you, then the dope sheet might not be for you. But it sounds like from the animator's question this week that the lead animator that's working on this show has a lot of experience working with kind of like poses and images, and really likes to move them around and mix them up and kind of let the animation organically grow in front of his eyes or her eyes, and speak to and have like a conversation with the work. And that's, I really love working like that too. So this is a great way to use it. So I'm going to leave it at that today. This was a great question. I encourage you to go check out the Animating with Tempo lecture, and then try out the dope sheet again. I think I gave the advice to try out the dope sheet in that lecture, but I really want everyone to try it out right now. Take 15 minutes and open up one of your scenes that's in like the blocking phase, and just start moving things around and see if it's actually, it inspires you to do more experimentation and more kind of finding the animation, the awesome timing choice within the work. All right, because for me, that's kind of what it does. Great question. Please send more to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I love all the questions. You can even send me your Maya file if you're having a technical problem, or for any reason you want to just send me your Maya file. Please go ahead, feel free. Cool. Looking forward to a lot more. Go check out the Anim Gym in the forums. It's going and it's roaring along. And I really enjoyed last month's lecture, or last month's webcast critiques. Looking forward to doing a lot more. So take advantage of that as a member. Only members get critiques. So if you're watching this, you can get a critique. Go over there and get some feedback. Okay. Cool. Thanks a lot. Good luck with your animation. And as always, rock on.